Okay. Programs, programming, codes, goo codes, software development, learning development, soul growth and spiritual development, and the equipment that you're running by who created the assembly line of that product, the software. This, I've said this before, I gave it a hell of a test run, a test run. Somebody might say, what are you trying to do? Ruin a girl's equipment? No, I'm taking her. You need to understand when I was a little kid, I was an exceptionally excited kid. I was on fire. So, some soul with a spirit is lit on fire, man. Yeah, that's a hell of a drive motor that's running the equipment. Now, why is that important? Because even though you might say, well, you don't have teleportation and you don't have self repair and all the rest of this stuff, if you've been around long enough, okay, like the gift that the heart gives you, see, she gives you a heart. A goddess gives you a heart, okay. How could you not know the heart? The heart is the power center of your vortex, baby. And as Chief Oral Lions, I believe he's Turtle Clan, although converted to Wolf Clan, said it one day that the heart is the higher mind. The higher mind, right? That's what he said. It's the higher mind. Patty Broussard said, that's your true self. That's your soul connection, your higher mind. Your true self is your soul. So I remembered when Patty said that when I'm like in my late 60s, I went back to my childhood when I was about 11. Ooh, 11, 1, 1. I was born on 111. And I realized my soul's running this baby, okay? And spirit is the shield, okay, which is your fire. So what that means is that I've mentioned this before. It's if you were to graph my table, my water column table, graph it, quantum map it, right? It certainly looks like a raging fire, right? Because you could take a picture of that raging fire if you've ever seen a raging forest fire, a raging mirror, right? Remember that old movie they made with Robert De Niro called Raging Bull? I'm bear, white bear, right? Yeah, white bear. That's a white flag of peace, baby. Yeah. So that means your love, which is your light, which is your heart wheel, is running the most powerful vortex. Absolutely. And so the evidence of that, and I'll just share this with you because when you don't have other things available to you, when you're living out of a backpack, and you got all these TSA lines that said, you can't have that, got to throw that away. I've had a lot of stuff chucked that cost me energy, energy through money, right? It was just like piss it down the drain. See, they don't mind pissing your stuff down the drain. Oh, now we're back to Entebbe, staging false flag events in order to put up all these radiation counters that you got to go through, damaging that much more. Because in your mind, you think these things need to be here because there's no telling there could be a guy going on my airplane with a bomb, right? So this is how they get you both ways, coming and going. They keep damaging you as much as they can every which way, and naturally they're recording all the damage that they're doing, right? And they do use that data. Go talk to the NCBI, right? Hackers and operators, operating systems, software operating systems, right? What consciousness chooses to do in software development. AI war gamers, right? But nevertheless, the point that I was going to make, aside from the one about working with the sun, that will heal you immensely. But when I got back from the island of Kauai, my whole right side was bruised really, really bad because of being pumped full of steroids on an IV, number one. and the other was being hit with weapon fire, directed energy weapons. Okay. And so they knew because I had rainbow protection when I got there. The rainbow was all the way around the airplane. And so when I got back to San Francisco and got my Explorer and I went to the first rest stop the first night, what I did is I laid back, I put both my hands over my heart, and I talked to every single cell in my body with my heart and soul. And I start pushing the real light, which is real true love, which is living light, which is loving light, every single cell. My heart's vortex, my soul healed my body. Okay. And I happened to see that little chart, not color chart, but that colored image that popped up on my Facebook page this afternoon that showed that. So it's just like, I know. So it's just like, I was experiencing that. Now the information comes back full circle. That's called a full circle of light. So that means that somebody else knows that acknowledges that. I acknowledge it because I know that, because that's why I was doing that. Right? So I mentioned to my clan mother, it took me within about 5 days, it was clear. And I was back, my energy was up, I'm fine again. I'm back to breathing with the sun again. So this is why I know that a lot of folks talk about the importance of the brain, the circuitry of the brain, the frontal cortex, the neocortical, and all the rest of that. Most of the repairs that I've done with my magnetic circuits throughout this avatar, I did it all with my heart and soul. Okay? I figure if my heart and soul isn't enough to get it done, which is the most powerful vortex, which is why she gives you that heart to do it with. I knew this as a child, which means I knew it before coming into this avatar. Okay? Your heart is your soul connection. That's what they try to break. Okay? So when your heart is the most powerful vortex, then your soul is running that vortex, connected with living spirit, which is living light, which is the most powerful driver. That's your accelerator, which is your magnet. Yeah. So you know why you're here. You know exactly why you're here. When you come into a fallen system and you're grounding your battery, your soul's pole, because for me it's a single pole, is a polarity integrator, which is trying to bring everything back into the one, so that we all remember what love is, because it began with the one. What love is, it goes on forever, gifting love energy, right? So you know that's the most powerful energy you can use to heal you. That's what I use to heal me. And a footnote to that was just to give you a little bit of idea and some drug history with the CIA and why I was going, where I was going, what I was experiencing, everything that I was experiencing, because I was like, 15, I guess it was, the first time I got introduced to THC, peyote, LSD, had a connection, a lab connection directly with Osley, who was the sound manager for the Grateful Dead, right? So this is all Osley, OWL, the Owls, Osley White Lightning, made by a PhD chemist out of UC Berkeley, and you can tie that to Ralph Abramson, UC Santa Cruz, Visual Mathematics Lab. Then you can tie that directly into Terence McKenna, who was a botanist who went to the Amazon and the shamanic journey, along with Rupert Sheldrake, which is morphogenetic field structure and all the work that they were doing together. And notice there was 3 of them, right? And then all of the information that was produced out of everything that they were doing together, which was unbelievable, given the short period of time in which they came together and did the work that they did, is like condensate. It's like a compressed library of an enormous amount of historical information that relates to shamanism crossing over, okay? Or for anybody that's ever taken magic mushrooms, psilocybin, the real stuff, the real THC, tryptamines, if you will, And it basically is exposure. What it does is exposes the insanity that your mind has been living in by virtue of using your energy to experience what you know to be insane. So the plant's mama, which is trinary, the alkaloids, are exposing the binary codes for which you're being held captive by the AI. And when what it is that people do as a result of fractured light, which is not living light, to live the way that they do. So you know that that doesn't have a future. Yet that's like a different reality. But that's the one you're living in. So you know you're living in something that is not sane. It's not real. This is an illusion. This isn't what love is. So Mama, through plant medicine, gives you a completely different perspective, as Terence McKenna is like learning through the other. He called it an alien intelligence. No, I know what alien intelligence is. Okay. It means it's alien to us. And it's alien to us because it's not living light, it's dead light. So that's why in one of his books, he talked about the end of history and the rebirth of goddess energy, which is the higher octave. Now you're experiencing more light, or the greater capacity to experience more light through a girl's heart. So when a girl's heart is free, which means her spirit has been freed, now all of her flowers are blooming. Now her spirit is raised because her energy is raised, and that's why we're here. Spirit is in the energy, raising the energy. When you're raising the energy, you become more aware of why the light is here. So the more light you're experiencing through you, through what we do with the light of what we do while we're here, more beings are waking up because they're experiencing higher consciousness of living light, not dead light. And there's a difference in speed, and there's a difference in the state of consciousness that you're experiencing between dead light and living light. That was the whole driving mechanism of what was it? What did they call that? The Walking Dead. AMC was coming up with The Walking Dead, Walking Dead Light, living in Deadwood homes and all the rest of it, right? So I got another distraction because it became aware of what I'm aware of that I'm communicating, right? That's what it does. It's a distractor. It's a bug. It's a pest. Probably a bug created it. A mantid, right? I love mantids. They're beautiful looking insects. I had them in my house when I was a little kid. They were green, almost fluorescent, with a little clasp hand, little praying hands, right? But you see what they do. They're other bug catchers. They go after. Remember how I explained this? It's a unit of energy that is aware of itself, of what it does in form and function. What is its function? Well, just observe it, and now you're experiencing what it does with its energy. Okay, so that's just another creature, another unit of energy that is experiencing itself in the form in which you're experiencing itself, by the form and the color in which you're experiencing what it does with its energy in the form in which you experience it in your mirror. Right? Okay, so when your imagination, your creativity is on fire and you want to imagine the kind of worlds that your mind wants to live in with the love that you're experiencing, that you're using to do it with, then you begin to realize that I'm living in other worlds where I'm not experiencing stuff like that. So you have the freedom to be able to do that. And what frees your mind to be able to do that, to experience what it's like to be a free spirit with your soul, is what love is. That's self-evident. Because that means now you're with the rest of creation, that creation was created out of that energy, which is what love is, because love does no harm. So when you are experiencing what that is, you naturally not experiencing not only any harm you're not doing to yourself, but you're not experiencing any harm that anybody else is doing to you. Imagine that. That's how it works. That's how it works. I think that's chapter 5, as a matter of fact, in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. That's why it's no coincidence. They have step 1, right? Acknowledge you got a problem, buddy, right? No, I'm in denial. I'm running programs. Yeah, we know. That's the whole idea. We got to clear the program, and we got to awaken that spirit up, wake your soul up. Look what you're doing to yourself. I had a good friend of mine that I worked in wildland firefighting who was not an alcoholic, who read parts of the big book, and he said, there is a lot of wisdom in that book. He said, something, that's a good way to live. What they experience, what they're saying in that book, that's a good way to live. I know. That's called a living spirit. That's what step 11 is, isn't it? 11 as a result of a spiritual awakening. Now you go to step 12, which is 12 strand DNA. And what is that? Love and service to others. Now you're going to help those by healing others now that you have learned how to heal yourself with the others, other living spirits that are there in support of what you're doing because you've chosen to surrender. That's right. Which means you're going to war against yourself in your own mirror. So you got to recover what you've lost in light as a result of going black mirror and losing fractals of light as a result of the trauma. And now you're using the trauma that they've done to you to simply spiral down because you're looking for an alternate escape route. And that becomes break glass in case of fire, right? Now you're doing this to yourself, and they're going to help you because look at all the booze stations that they have. I call them booze stations. Booze, right? Alcohol, right? So with me, it doesn't work. Okay, and this is when we get into the money and the energy thing about one is too many, 1,000 is never enough, right? And that's what it's like to duke it out with a demon. Now it wants to take over your space, take over your vehicle because your vibration is so low as a result of all the trauma. And now you're looking for a fix, just like a fix. I need a fix. They traumatized me. Now I need an alternate state of consciousness in order to escape this traumatic fallen system. So they're getting rich, filthy rich. That's their biggest cash flow crop. I know that because that's why I was associated with what they were doing.